The medical bay of the Galactic Concordance Station hummed with the usual sterile efficiency. But today, chaos reigned. Dr. Mira Keene watched from her observation window as yet another Xenovet fled the isolation chamber, their crystalline exoskeleton cracked from apparent trauma. "That's the fifth one this cycle," her assistant murmured, mandibles clicking nervously. Mira pressed her palm against the transparent barrier, studying the creature within. It wasn't a wolf, not by Earth standards, but the translation matrix had dubbed it thus. The beast was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. 8 feet of corded muscle wrapped in midnight fur that seemed to absorb light itself, 6 eyes blazing with feverish yellow intensity, and jaws that could crush durasteel. Right now, those jaws were clamped around the restraining table, reducing it to twisted metal. The creature was dying. That much was obvious even to Mira's human eyes. "Where is the king?" Mira asked. "In the observation deck above. He's been there for 3 planetary rotations. Hasn't moved, hasn't eaten." Mira's gaze drifted upward. Through the upper viewing panel, she could see him. Vorath Rex, supreme sovereign of the Drakon Empire, a civilization that spanned 47 systems. His scaled form was hunched, massive shoulders trembling. Even in grief, he was imposing. 12 feet of predatory evolution, with obsidian scales that reflected the station's lights like fractured mirrors. The Drakon Empire had conquered worlds. Their warriors were legendary. Their king had never known defeat, until now. "Ma'am, with respect, you can't be considering—" "I am," Mira interrupted, already moving toward the equipment locker. "Dr. Keene, that creature has injured 17 medical professionals. 3 are still in regeneration tanks. The king himself warned that Shadowfang, that's its name, has gone feral from the fever. It doesn't recognize friend from foe anymore." Mira pulled on reinforced gloves, checked her medical scanner, and loaded a hypospray with broad-spectrum sedatives. "Then it's a good thing humans are too stubborn to know when to quit." Her assistant's antennae drooped in resignation. "The other species refuse to treat it because they value their lives, Doctor." "Not because they lack courage." "Maybe," Mira acknowledged, sealing her environment suit. "But I didn't become a xeno-veterinarian to play it safe." The truth was more complex, though she didn't voice it. Mira had reviewed the other doctors' reports. The Trilaxians were empathic. Shadowfang's pain and rage had overwhelmed them psychically. The Korthian medics were purely logical. They'd calculated a 94% chance of failure and refused to proceed. The Yaltine doctor had tried but possessed sedatives only worked on carbon-based neural structures. Shadowfang's biology was silicon hybrid, a nightmare for conventional medicine. They'd all had valid reasons to refuse. But Mira Keene had watched her own dog die when she was 12, holding its paw as the vet said there was nothing more to be done. She'd sworn then that nothing more would never be good enough for her. The isolation chamber hissed open. Shadowfang's heads, 2 of them she realized now, swiveled toward her with predatory focus. The beast's growl vibrated through her sternum, a subsonic warning that triggered every primal instinct in her human brain. "Easy," Mira whispered, though she knew the creature couldn't understand standard. "I'm here to help," Shadowfang lunged. Mira dove left, rolling behind an overturned medical cart. The beast's claws gouged the floor where she'd stood, leaving smoking furrows in the reinforced decking. The fever made it fast but uncoordinated. She could work with that. "Scan complete," her suit's AI announced. "Silicon-carbon hybrid physiology. Infection located in the 3rd neural cluster. Terrestrial antibiotics ineffective. Recommendation none available." "Override," Mira snapped. Cross-reference Earth Veterinary Database, historical records pre-concordance era. While the AI worked, Mira kept moving, using overturned furniture as cover. Shadowfang stalked her with hunter's patience, yellow eyes never blinking. Up close, she could see the swelling around its neck ridge, the infection site angry and pulsating with bioluminescent toxins. "Match found," the AI reported. "Colloidal silver suspension, used in ancient Earth medicine for bacterial infections. Warning, considered primitive by modern standards. Primitive problems need primitive solutions," Mira muttered. "Synthesize it." Maximum concentration, she had one chance. The hypospray loaded with the silver compound felt impossibly small in her hand as Shadowfang circled closer. The beast's breath washed over her, hot, fetid, carrying the sweet stench of systemic infection. Mira did something the other doctors hadn't. She stopped running. She stood still, making herself small, and began to hum. An old lullaby her grandmother had sung. Stupid, irrational, completely unscientific. Shadowfang paused, one head cocked, confused. That's right, Mira whispered. I'm not prey. I'm pack. She thought of Vorath Rex above, watching helplessly. She thought of the bond between beings and their companions, universal, transcending species and star systems. Love was love, whether you had 2 legs or 6. Shadowfang took a step closer, then another. The creature's massive head lowered, and Mira realized it was presenting the infected area. Some instinct beneath the fever recognized help when offered. Mira moved with surgical precision. The hypospray pressed against the swollen tissue, discharged with a soft hiss. Shadowfang yelped, both heads snapping toward her, jaws wide. Time stopped. The beast's teeth hung inches from Mira's face. She could count every serrated edge, see her reflection in those fever-bright eyes. Then Shadowfang collapsed, unconscious before hitting the ground. 48 hours later, Mira stood in the medical bay watching Shadowfang, both heads alert and clear-eyed, devour a meal that would have fed a human family for a week. The infection had broken. The fever had passed. The creature would live. Vorath Rex stood beside her, his scaled hand resting gently on her shoulder, the highest honor in Drakon culture. The Concordance will hear of this, he rumbled, his voice like continents shifting. A human who succeeded where a dozen species failed, who risked everything for a creature not her own. Mira smiled tiredly. We humans have a saying, the only creatures who love us more than we love ourselves walk on 4 legs, give or take a few legs. The king's laugh was like distant thunder. Your species is strange, Dr. Keen. Fragile, short-lived, with no natural weapons. He looked down at her with something like reverence. Yet you face death armed with nothing but stubbornness and ancient remedies. And hope, Mira added softly. Don't forget hope. As word spread through the station and eventually across the Concordance, the story evolved into legend. The human who tamed the untamable, who succeeded through determination when superior beings had calculated failure. It was the most human thing possible, refusing to accept the impossible. Armed with primitive knowledge and sheer audacity, it was, in every sense, humanity's saying, Funnikya.